The Mystery of St. Clare's Hospital. Chapter 1, Welcome to St. Clare. Lucas Mendez took a deep breath as he stepped into St. Clare Hospital for the first time. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, and the sound of beeping monitors echoed through the hallways. His heart raced. It was his first night shift, and he wanted to do everything right. "Lucas, you're with me tonight," said Dr. Sophie Laurent, handing him a clipboard. "Stay close and pay attention." Lucas nodded. "Yes, doctor." He tried to sound confident, but inside, he felt nervous. His English was not perfect. He could understand most conversations, but speaking fluently was a challenge. Suddenly, a nurse rushed over. "Emergency in room 304. A patient is confused and won't stop talking in French." Lucas followed Sophie into the room. An old man lay in bed, his eyes wide. He gripped Lucas's wrist tightly and whispered something. "Il faut trouver le dossier." Lucas froze. "Doctor, what is he saying?" Sophie frowned. "He said, you must find the file." "But what file?" The old man struggled to speak, his voice weak. "Trop tard, ils savent." Lucas's heart pounded. He looked at Sophie. "What does that mean?" Sophie hesitated. "It means, too late, they know." The monitors beeped loudly. The old man's breathing became heavy. Lucas leaned in. "Sir, what do you mean?" "Who knows?" The old man's grip tightened. His lips moved one last time. Then, silence. Lucas stared at Sophie. "What is happening?" Sophie exhaled. "I don't know, Lucas. But I think we need to find that file." What file was he talking about? Who knows the secret? Find out in Chapter 2. Shadowing practice. Try repeating these phrases. "Lucas, you're with me tonight. Stay close and pay attention." What does that mean? I don't know, Lucas. But I think we need to find that file. Listen. Repeat. Learn. What do you think the old man's secret is? Chapter 2, The Forgotten Code. Lucas walked into the hospital's records room. The place smelled like old paper and dust. His heart beat fast. He held the small note he found in the old man's pocket. The words were in French. He needed help. "Dr. Sophie, can you help me?" he asked. Dr. Sophie Laurent looked at the paper. She frowned. "This is not just random words. It's a message," she said. Lucas repeated the words, trying to say them correctly. "Ciel caché, derrière le passé." Sophie nodded. "It means hidden key, behind the past." "But what does it mean?" Lucas looked around. The records room had shelves full of patient files. Some were very old. "Maybe the past means these files," he said. They searched through old papers. Lucas found a file with the patient's name, Jean Moreau. He opened it. There was a note inside. "This note is in English," Lucas said, relieved. He read aloud, "Look for the light where shadows fall." Sophie tapped her chin. Light and shadows. Maybe it's something near a window? Lucas turned to a small, dusty window. Underneath, there was an old wooden cabinet. He pulled the drawer. It was stuck. "Help me," he said. Sophie pulled with him. The drawer opened, revealing a small envelope. Inside was a tiny key. Lucas held it up. A key. But for what? At that moment, the lights in the room flickered. Footsteps echoed outside. Someone was coming. "Quick! Hide the key," Sophie whispered. Lucas stuffed it in his pocket. The door creaked open. A tall figure stood there. "Can I help you?" the voice asked. Lucas swallowed hard. To be continued. Practice time, shadowing and reflection. Repeat after me, hidden key, behind the past. What do you think the key will open? Who do you think the person at the door is? Stay tuned for Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Lost Words. Lucas walked down the quiet hospital hallway. The air smelled like antiseptic, and the fluorescent lights flickered slightly. His heart beat faster. He held the old note in his hand. The words written in French and English made little sense. But one thing was clear: the patient, Mr. Bernard, had a secret. "Hey, Tomas," Lucas called as he saw the janitor mopping the floor. "Can you help me with something?" Tomas, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, nodded. "Of course, my friend." "What is it?" Lucas handed him the note. This was in Mr. Bernard's pocket. "I don't understand some of these words. Do you speak French?" Tomas shook his head. "No, but I know someone who does." He smiled. "Dr. Sophie. She speaks French and English. You should ask her." Lucas sighed. "Yes, I will. But there is something else. This note mentions a file room and a hidden key. Do you know anything about it?" Tomas hesitated. "The old file room? It's in the basement. No one goes there anymore." Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. "Can you show me?" Tomas nodded slowly. "Follow me." They walked down the dark stairs. The basement smelled damp, like old books and dust. Tomas pulled out a ring of keys and unlocked a heavy door. Inside, shelves full of dusty files stood in rows. Lucas stepped forward. His fingers brushed against a folder labeled Bernard L. Before he could open it, they heard a noise, a soft creak, like footsteps. Someone else was in the room. Cliffhanger. Who was there? And what were they looking for? Chapter 4, Voices from the Past. Lucas stood in the hospital's old archives, holding the small, dusty notebook. Dr. Sophie was beside him, reading the faded words aloud. "This is Latin," she whispered. "We need help." Lucas frowned. Latin? He barely managed French and Spanish. But he was determined. He had come too far to stop now. "Who can help us?" Lucas asked. Sophie smiled. "I know someone. Follow me." They walked down the long, dimly lit hallways until they reached the hospital's chapel. Inside, Father Antonio sat quietly, reading. He looked up and smiled warmly. "Ah, Lucas and Sophie. What brings you here?" he asked. Lucas held up the notebook. "Can you read Latin?" Father Antonio chuckled. "Of course. Let me see." He adjusted his glasses and read slowly. "The key to what was lost lies where the first light enters." Lucas repeated. "The key lies where the first light enters." He thought for a moment. "What does that mean?" Father Antonio tapped his chin. "It could mean a window. Or the old East Wing. That part of the hospital gets the first sunlight." Sophie gasped. "The old East Wing? That place has been closed for years." Lucas felt a chill. "Why?" Father Antonio lowered his voice. "Strange things happened there. People heard whispers. Some say the old experiments never really ended." Lucas swallowed hard. The notebook, the Latin message, the missing files, everything was connected. He turned to Sophie. "We need to go there." Sophie hesitated. "Are you sure?" Lucas nodded. "Yes. The answer is waiting for us." Just as they stepped toward the door, the lights flickered. A distant sound echoed through the hallway. A whisper. Someone was watching. "What do you think? Where is the key hidden? Who is watching them?" Repeat with me. "The key lies where the first light enters." Are you sure? We need to go there. Stay with us for the next chapter. Chapter 5, The Final Diagnosis. Lucas stood in front of Dr. Howard's office. His heart was racing. The truth was so close. He took a deep breath and knocked. "Come in," said Dr. Howard, his voice calm but firm. Lucas entered the room, holding the old journal tightly. Dr. Sophie and Tomas stood beside him. They had come too far to stop now. "Dr. Howard, we know about the experiment," Lucas said. "We found the notes. The patient, Dr. Leclerc, tried to warn us." Dr. Howard sighed. He looked at the journal in Lucas's hands. "You don't understand," he said. "That research was dangerous." Lucas took a step forward. It was not dangerous. It was important. It could save lives. Dr. Howard looked at Sophie. "Do you agree with him?" She nodded. "This could change everything." "Why was it hidden?" Howard closed his eyes for a moment. "It was not my choice. The hospital stopped the project. Too much risk, too much money." Lucas frowned. "So you kept it secret?" Dr. Howard looked at him. "I had no choice." There was silence. Lucas felt the weight of the moment. Then, Dr. Howard stood up. "But now, maybe it is time. If you can prove the research is safe, I will help you." Lucas felt a rush of hope. "We will prove it. But we need all the files." Dr. Howard hesitated, then reached into his desk and pulled out a key. "The last files are in the basement. But be careful." "Careful?" Lucas asked. Dr. Howard sighed. Because someone else doesn't want you to find them. Lucas swallowed hard. The mystery was not over. It was just beginning. What will they find in the basement? Who is trying to stop them? To be continued. Practice time, shadowing and reflection. Repeat after me, we found the notes. Try saying, this could save lives. What do you think will happen next? Who is trying to stop them? Chapter 6, The Language of Salvation. Lucas stood in front of the hospital board, holding the old letter in his hands. His heart pounded. This was the moment of truth. Dr. Howard, Lucas said, his voice steady, we found the missing documents. The experiment was real. The medicine works. Dr. Howard sighed, rubbing his temples. You don't understand, Lucas. This is bigger than you think. Lucas frowned. Then explain. Why hide something that could save lives? Sophie stepped forward. Lucas is right. We must share this discovery. The patient, Mr. Moreau, knew the truth. He tried to tell us in French. Lucas took a deep breath. He said, Il faut se souvenir. That means you must remember. He wanted us to find this. Dr. Howard looked around the room. The silence was heavy. Then, he nodded slowly. You are brave, Lucas. You reminded me why I became a doctor, he said. We will reopen the research. But we must be careful. Lucas felt a wave of relief. He had done it. He had used English, French, and even a little Spanish to unlock the truth. Suddenly, Sophie grabbed his arm. Lucas, where is Mr. Moreau? Lucas turned. The hospital bed was empty. The old man was gone. Where did he go? Lucas whispered. Then, on the bedside table, he saw a note. It was in Latin. Lucas picked it up, his hands shaking. He read the words out loud. Veritas liberabit vos. The truth will set you free. Lucas looked at Sophie. What does this mean? She met his eyes, a mix of excitement and fear. It means, she said, this isn't over yet. Cliffhanger, what did Mr. Moreau know? And where did he go? Practice time. Repeat after Lucas, the truth will set you free. Can you guess what will happen next? Comment below.